My beloved brothers and sisters, when you hear the phrase living like a king, what comes to your mind? Most of us think about palaces, expensive clothes, endless wealth, luxury cars, and the kind of life that only a handful of people in the world ever get to experience. But the truth is, Islam teaches us a very different understanding of what it really means to live like a king. A king is not defined by how many treasures he owns, but by how much contentment he feels, how much peace he carries in his heart, and how much gratitude he has for the blessings around him. The Prophet of Allah, peace and blessings be upon him, taught us that true wealth is not measured by what is in your hands, but by what is in your heart. If you can recognize the blessings Allah has already given you, you may realize that you are already living like a king, even if the world does not see you that way. Today, I want to remind you of 3 powerful signs that prove many of us are richer than we think, and that we are already living a life of kingship without even realizing it. The first sign is health. The second sign is security, and the third sign is having enough provision for your day. These 3 blessings, if you reflect on them, make you richer than millions of people around the world. And yet, we often overlook them because we are too busy comparing ourselves to others. So let us walk through these 3 signs one by one and see how they reveal the richness of our daily lives. The first sign that you're living like a king is good health. Think about it. If you woke up this morning able to see, able to hear, able to walk, able to breathe, you already possess treasures greater than mountains of gold. There are people who would give everything they own just for one more day of health, one more breath without pain, one more moment of strength. But if Allah has given you health today, you are holding a blessing more valuable than palaces. And yet, how often do we take this for granted? We complain about small discomforts while forgetting the gift of simply being alive, of being able to move, to think, to pray, to eat with our own hands. True kingship is not about owning crowns. It is about waking up with the ability to live your life with wellness. Now imagine a king sitting on his throne with all the treasures of the world before him. If he loses his health, all of that wealth becomes meaningless. No amount of gold can buy back his ability to breathe easily, to sleep peacefully, to walk without pain. That is why one of the greatest forms of richness is to be healthy. If Allah has granted you health, you are already wealthier than you realize. You are living like a king because health gives you the freedom to enjoy your life, to serve your family, to worship your Creator, and to carry out the purpose you were sent for. The second sign that you're already living like a king is security. My brothers and sisters, think about the countless people around the world who live every day in fear. Fear of war, fear of hunger, fear of persecution, fear of not surviving another night. If you are able to sleep in your home without fear, if you can walk in your neighborhood without constant worry, if you can close your eyes at night knowing that your family is safe, then you are living a life that many would give anything to have. Security is one of the most overlooked blessings in our lives. We only realize its value when it is taken away. But the Prophet reminded us that to live in safety, to wake up in peace, to go about your daily life without fear, that is one of the greatest treasures of this world. You may not have a crown on your head, but if Allah has granted you security, you are already a king in your own home. What is the use of luxury if you cannot live in peace? What is the use of a mansion if you are always afraid of losing it? What is the use of wealth if it is surrounded by enemies or stolen by thieves? Real kingship is to sit with your family, eat your food, pray your prayer, and sleep your sleep with peace of heart. That security, my brothers and sisters, is richness beyond measure. The third sign that you're already living like a king is having enough provision for your day. Notice I did not say having millions in the bank. I did not say owning endless lands or treasures. I said having enough for today. If you have food to eat, clothes to wear, and a roof over your head, then you already have more than countless people on this earth. We live in a world where millions struggle for their next meal, where children go to sleep hungry, where families do not know if they will survive tomorrow. So if you opened your fridge this morning and saw food, if you have clothes to wear, if you have a home to protect you, then realize you are already living like a king. The beauty of Islam is that it shifts our perspective. Society teaches us to chase endless wealth, to never be satisfied, to always want more. But our Prophet taught us that richness is not about abundance, but about sufficiency. If Allah gives you enough for your needs, you are already rich. The moment you feel content with what Allah has provided, you become wealthier than kings because your heart is at peace. My dear brothers and sisters, these three blessings, health, security, and provision, are treasures that make you richer than you realize. If you possess them, you are already living like a king, yet how often do we overlook them? We focus on what we do not have, and we forget the gold that is already in our hands. The Prophet warned us that many people are deceived when it comes to these blessings. We waste our health before we fall sick. We take our safety for granted until it is threatened. We spend our wealth carelessly until we lose it, and then we look back with regret. But the wise believer is the one who appreciates these blessings while he still has them, and uses them in service to Allah. Imagine a man who owns a palace but cannot sleep at night because of worry. Compare him to a man who lives in a simple home but sleeps peacefully in security, eats his food with gratitude, and wakes up with health. Who is the real king here? The world may point to the palace, but Islam points to the heart. The palace may crumble, the wealth may vanish, but the heart that is content, the body that is healthy, and the home that is safe, that is true kingship. Brothers and sisters, living like a king in Islam does not mean having more than everyone else. It means recognizing that what you already have is more than enough. It means thanking Allah for every breath, every meal, every day of safety, every moment of health. It means living simply, with gratitude, with contentment, with humility. The richest man in the eyes of Allah is the one who looks at his blessings and says, Alhamdulillah, this is sufficient for me. So ask yourself, are you healthy today? Then you are wealthier than millions. Are you safe today? Then you are living in peace that countless people would give anything for. Do you have food for today? Then you are already living like a king, even if the world does not recognize it. The challenge, my brothers and sisters, is to train our hearts to see these blessings before they are taken away. Do not wait until sickness strikes to appreciate health. Do not wait until danger comes to value security. Do not wait until poverty hits to be grateful for provision. Recognize it now, thank Allah now, and live like a king every single day of your life. Living like a king in Islam is not about luxury, it is about gratitude. It is not about crowns, it is about contentment. It is not about owning the world, it is about realizing that the smallest blessing from Allah is worth more than all the treasures of the earth. So let us leave today with a renewed perspective. Let us stop comparing our lives to those above us in wealth and start comparing to those below us in difficulty. Let us be grateful for the health we have, for the safety we live in, and for the food and shelter that Allah provides. And let us remember that kingship is not a title, but a state of heart. If you have these three signs, you are already living like a king in the sight of Allah. Gratitude is one of the most powerful treasures that a believer can carry in the heart. When we look at the world around us, we see countless people who spend their entire lives chasing wealth, chasing titles, chasing positions, and yet many of them never find peace. They may have mansions, expensive food, and servants, but their hearts remain restless, empty, and constantly hungry for more. On the other hand, a believer who wakes up in the morning, takes a deep breath, feels the strength in their body, greets their family with love, eats a simple meal, and remembers Allah with a grateful heart, is living a life that kings and rulers would envy. Gratitude turns the ordinary into something extraordinary, and it turns the simple blessings we often overlook into treasures of immeasurable worth. The crown of the believer is not made of gold, silver, or diamonds, but it is the crown of gratitude that shines brighter than anything this world can offer. a person who says Alhamdulillah, not just with the tongue but with the heart, is wearing a crown that cannot be taken off by poverty, hardship, or loss. Gratitude makes the heart see blessings where others see nothing. For example, a poor man who eats bread with his family in peace and safety may be richer than a billionaire who eats alone in worry and fear. The value of life is not in what you own, but in how much you appreciate what Allah has given you. Gratitude allows you to see that every drop of water, every breath of air, every smile from a loved one is part of a kingdom that Allah has already placed in your hands. When we truly practice gratitude, our perspective on life changes completely. What others complain about becomes a source of joy for us. Waking up early for prayer becomes a blessing because it is another chance to connect with Allah. Walking to work or school becomes a blessing because it shows that we have the strength in our legs and the energy in our bodies. Eating simple food becomes a blessing because many people sleep at night with hunger in their stomachs. Gratitude makes the believer live in a constant state of richness. It is as though everything we have is doubled and multiplied, simply because we recognize it as a gift from Allah. Think about a simple home. To one person, it may look small, unimportant, or modest. But to the grateful believer, it is a palace, because it provides safety, warmth, and shelter from the storms of life. Think about a simple meal. To one person, it may look plain or lacking variety, but to the grateful heart, it is a feast because it fills the stomach, gives strength, and allows us to continue worshiping and living. Think about an ordinary day. To one person, it may feel boring or uneventful, but to the believer, it is filled with countless gifts. The gift of waking up, the gift of health, the gift of time, the gift of opportunities to do good deeds. Gratitude does not change what we have, but it changes how we see what we have, and in that way it makes us live like kings. A grateful person rules over their life because they are not enslaved to greed or envy. They do not constantly compare themselves with what others own, nor do they fall into despair when they see people richer, more famous, or more powerful. Their heart is satisfied with what Allah has written for them, and that satisfaction is more valuable than any throne. In fact, many rulers in history who had wealth, armies, and palaces could not find peace in their hearts. Yet a simple believer sitting in a small masjid, remembering Allah with a smile, may be wealthier than all of them combined. Gratitude is the secret that flips the balance. It makes the poor person rich and the rich person poor, depending on the state of their heart. The Prophet taught us that real richness is not the richness of possessions, but the richness of the soul. Gratitude is the key that unlocks that richness. When you are grateful, you feel as though you already have more than enough. You stop chasing endlessly after what you do not have, and instead you begin enjoying fully what is already in your hands. Gratitude takes away the bitterness of trials and replaces it with hope, because even in difficulty you can still find something to thank Allah for. A sickness may be heavy, but gratitude allows you to thank Allah for the body parts that are still working. A financial struggle may be hard, but gratitude allows you to thank Allah for the food that still reaches your table. Gratitude softens every blow in life and makes even the hardest situations bearable because you know that Allah never leaves you without blessings. The grateful heart also attracts more mercy and barakah. When a person thanks Allah for the little they have, Allah places more goodness in it. A small amount of money becomes enough. A small house feels spacious. A small family circle feels full of love and support. On the other hand, when a person is ungrateful, even the largest blessings feel empty. They may have wealth but no happiness, food but no taste, family but no unity. Gratitude breathes life into blessings and makes them shine with beauty. That is why the believer who practices gratitude every single day is already living like a king, because everything around them becomes part of a kingdom of joy, peace, and contentment. When we place gratitude at the center of our lives, we begin to live differently. Instead of waking up and thinking about what we lack, we wake up and think about what we have. Instead of comparing our lives with those who seem to have more, we compare with those who have less, and that makes us appreciate our situation even more. Gratitude trains the heart to focus on abundance, not scarcity, on blessings, not complaints, on opportunities, not obstacles. This is why a believer who is grateful lives in a world filled with treasures that others are blind to. So the real question is not how much we own, but how much we thank Allah for what we own. If you can thank Allah for health, for safety, for food, for family, for faith, then you are already wearing the crown of royalty. Gratitude turns your ordinary days into extraordinary gifts, your simple meals into banquets, and your modest homes into palaces. You may not realize it, but by living with gratitude you are already living like a king in the eyes of Allah, and that is the only kingship worth seeking. Contentment is one of the greatest treasures that a believer can ever hold in their heart. It is a secret that very few people truly discover, because most of the world is caught in a race that never ends. People spend their entire lives chasing wealth, chasing status, chasing more possessions, always looking at what they do not have and forgetting what has already been placed in their hands. Yet Islam teaches us that the real kingdom is not found in gold or silver, nor in thrones or crowns, but in a heart that is at peace with what Allah has decreed. When you are content, you are already living like a king, because nothing in this world can disturb your inner peace. Think for a moment about what it means to rule. A ruler has authority, power, and control. Now ask yourself, what is greater, ruling over millions of people or ruling over your own desires? The one who can control their greed, envy, and endless hunger for more has achieved a form of kingship far more valuable than ruling over lands and armies. Many kings in history conquered nations but could not conquer their own souls. They had palaces but no peace, gold but no satisfaction, power but no rest. On the other hand, a simple believer who sleeps peacefully with a heart content in Allah's plan enjoys a kingdom greater than all of theirs combined. Contentment means accepting that what Allah has given you is enough. It does not mean you stop striving for halal success, nor that you give up ambition, but it means that your happiness is not chained to what you don't have. Your joy is not postponed until you earn more, buy more, or achieve more. Instead, your joy lives in the present moment, rooted in trust that Allah knows what is best for you. This kind of contentment frees you from the prison of comparison, because you no longer look at what others have and feel empty. You look at your own life and feel full. That fullness is the kingdom of the heart, and the believer who possesses it is richer than the richest man on earth. When you wake up in the morning and you have food for the day, a roof over your head, safety in your home, and health in your body, you are already living with more than most of the world. But when you add contentment to those blessings, you multiply them infinitely. A small house feels like a palace because you are not yearning for something bigger. A simple meal tastes like a feast because you are not craving something fancier. A modest income feels sufficient because your heart is not chained to the constant desire for more. Contentment transforms the quality of life even if nothing in your material condition changes. The beauty of contentment is that it cannot be bought or stolen. Money can disappear, positions can be lost, friends can turn away, but if your heart has contentment, you remain unshaken. Even in hardship, you carry a sense of calm because you know that your situation is still within the mercy of Allah. When a believer practices contentment, they carry a kingdom inside their chest that no one else can touch. That kingdom is not measured by wealth but by serenity, not by treasures but by trust, not by power but by peace. Consider how many people in the world live with endless anxiety even though they have everything others dream of. They cannot sleep at night because their hearts are restless. They buy new things only to find that the happiness fades quickly. They move from one achievement to the next, hoping to feel whole, but they remain empty. Contentment solves this problem at its root. It teaches the believer that wholeness is not found in acquiring more, but in appreciating what you already have. When your heart is satisfied with what Allah has written, you carry no burden of envy, no weight of greed, and no exhaustion of endless chasing. You walk lighter through life because you are no longer enslaved to desire. True kingship is not standing above people, but standing above your own weaknesses. It is not measured by how much you command, but by how little you crave. It is not about how wide your lands stretch, but how wide your heart stretches with gratitude and patience. A person who can say with honesty, "What I have is enough because Allah has given it to me," possesses a crown brighter than the crowns of kings. This is why contentment has been described as the greatest wealth, because once you have it, you lack nothing. When you practice contentment, you also find freedom from many of the traps of this world. Advertising and consumerism work by making people discontent, convincing them that their life is incomplete without the next product or trend. But a content believer is immune to these traps because they know that no object can complete them, only Allah can. Contentment shields you from jealousy when you see others succeed, because you trust that Allah's plan for you is perfect, and His provision is always just. Contentment saves you from wasting your life in comparison, because you understand that your worth is not measured by what others have, but by how close you are to Allah. There is also a deep peace that comes from aligning your heart with the wisdom of Allah's decree. Life will always bring ups and downs. You may face health issues, financial struggles, or personal losses, but contentment allows you to say, "Even in this, there is goodness for me." It gives you the strength to carry trials with dignity instead of breaking under the weight of disappointment. With contentment, you realize that even the hardest moment carries hidden blessings, and that Allah never withholds except to give in a better way later. This mindset is not weakness. It is the strongest form of kingship because it gives you resilience that no worldly ruler can grant. Imagine the life of a person who is content. They wake up without bitterness, they walk through the day without envy, and they sleep at night without regret. Their relationships are filled with warmth because they are not competing or comparing. Their work feels meaningful because they see it as provision from Allah, not as the only source of happiness. Their ibadah feels lighter because they approach Allah with a heart at rest, not one constantly weighed down by desire. That person is already living like a king, even if the world sees them as ordinary. Contentment also prepares the believer for the hereafter in the best way. A person who learns to live with satisfaction in this world will walk into the next life with peace. They will not be among those who wasted their years in greed, who stood before Allah with hearts that were never satisfied. Instead, they will be among those who showed gratitude, who trusted in Allah, who carried richness inside their souls. The kingdom of the heart in this world becomes the key to the eternal kingdom in the hereafter. So ask yourself, are you living like a king, not by the size of your house, the amount in your bank account, or the titles attached to your name, but by the peace in your heart? If you can sit with your family in safety, eat your meal in gratitude, sleep at night in calmness, and wake up with trust in Allah's plan, then you are already living a life more valuable than that of any ruler. Contentment is the crown that never fades, the throne that never crumbles, and the kingdom that never ends.